Just doing a little real-time fathering update on the podcast. A lot of the content that I post is based on past experiences. And I think that's how it should be for the most part. You know, walk the walk before you talk the talk. But I had an experience a couple days ago that I just want to get out there. I'm not sure when I'll even post this, but I at least want to get it on camera and have the content ready. But I went through a first experience that most likely every father will go through. So I'm going to put it out there. Maybe share some things I think I did well, some things I think I did not do well, which leads us to learning opportunities and recognition to get better. I was driving my daughter home from our Wednesday night youth group. We go to church on Wednesday nights. The kids have a youth group there. It's for middle school and high school kids. My son drove himself. I was driving my daughter home. And right when I pulled in the garage, I got a call from my son. He was clearly emotionally upset. He said, "Hey, I just hit someone in my car." I said, "Okay, where are you?" He said, "In the church parking lot." I said, "All right, I'll be right there." The church is only a couple miles from my house. I could be there in 10 minutes, probably less than that, 8 minutes, 5 minutes. So I dropped off my daughter, drove back there, and as I was backing out the driveway, I realized, I didn't ask if anyone's hurt. And that should have been my first thing. Like that, when I look back, that's one of the mistakes I made. That's the first thing you're supposed to do. My mind went to, how much is this going to cost me? But physical safety should be the number one priority. So I texted my son, "Hey, did anyone get hurt?" I'm driving there. Didn't hear back. So I pull up, and one of the sponsor guys, the volunteers at the youth group, is a police officer. He was out there, so that put me at rest. Like, okay, the deputy's out here, good. I saw a couple other adults. Kind of assumed they were the parents of the student whom my son's car ran into, and of course my son was out there. So pull up and try to make light of the conversation. "Oh, the cops are already here," alluding to my friend. And he kind of chuckled and introduced myself to the parents of this girl whose car was in the parking lot. And as I was going up there, I was just asking, like, "Hey, is everyone okay? Is anyone hurt?" So because I had the drive to figure that out and realize, like, I need to ask that. Everyone's fine. No one was in the car. My son just kind of backed into it. I was able to go over, talk to my son, try to comfort him a little bit. And then it's like, well, let's check it out. And I had put a tow hitch. My son drives this little Chevy Blazer. I put a tow hitch on it, really for the intention that if he ever got rear-ended, it might protect the car from damage. But it was his tow hitch that hit this minivan, and I ended up being really grateful because it had a 4-inch drop. It was from an old business. I used to have a lawn care business where I'd haul around this trailer, and so I had this nice 4-inch drop. And man, we lucked out because that tow hitch ball dropped low enough to miss the headlight on this minivan, and it just punctured into the bumper. And it didn't crack the bumper, it didn't break it. These minivans, some sort of plastic or polymer that the bumpers are made out of. and I missed the headlight, which would have been expensive. So we're kind of looking at that, and I told the owner of this car, I said, "Hey, I'll pay for this out of pocket. I don't want you to run it through insurance. Let's not go that route." And and he looked at it and said, "Man, this is kind of an old, dinged up minivan anyways, but I'll take it in, get a quote, see what I can do. I might even try to pop it out myself." And so we kind of talked man to man. I went over, checked with my son. I'd asked him if he had apologized to anyone yet. He said he apologized to the girl who was driving the van, and I said, "Did you apologize to her parents?" He said, "No." I said, "Why don't you do that before they leave?" So he went over and shook their hands, apologized to them, swapped business cards with Dad, and we went on our way. They left. My buddy's police officer left, but I'm there in the parking lot with my son, and so we had a little conversation about it. And I remember driving there thinking, okay, should I scold him? Should I talk about the severity of this? What should I be critical? And when I got there, he was already worked up emotionally pretty bad. But when everyone left, the emotions really came out. It became very emotional, and I realized in that moment, okay, he doesn't need really a stern talking to. He doesn't need, the strict finger shake. But we did talk through it. How did this happen? He was looking down at his phone. He wasn't paying attention. Said, "Hey man, I think you got off lucky on this one. What did you go through the steps of insurance, trading insurance information?" He did that well. Okay, good. I did put down like, "Hey, you hit a minivan. That's a lot bigger than a human. What would have happened if there was a human behind there? Like if you didn't see the minivan, there's no way you'd see a person." Not to guilt him, but just to do a little reality check, and he got that. I don't think I overplayed that card. I think I played it well. Hugged it out with him. Said, "Hey, you feel good enough to drive home?" And I don't think he really wanted to, but he had to. So, he was a good sport about it. Drove home. And that was my first car accident that I had a child go through as they were driving. And I think every dad's going to be in that situation at some point, because everyone gets in some sort of fender bender. And thank goodness this one, no one was hurt. No one was even in the car when he hit it. He was just not paying attention. I think he really learned his lesson. I think he even talked about not having his music up so loud in the future, which I think is brilliant. But I don't know. It's like, what could I have done different? I should have definitely asked if anyone was hurt when we were on the phone. Missed that one. What did I do right? I didn't show up kicking down the doors and scolding. The old me would have done that. I would have been more disappointed about the neglect of attention. And I don't think that's what my son needed at the time. So I don't know. I'm processing through all this. The guy ended up checking out the van. He was able to pop out the little dent, and virtually you can't even tell that anything happened. I think there's a little bit of micro cracks in the paint, but if you stand 5 feet away, you couldn't even tell. But I offered my son to donate some manual labor at his house in the yard, and he was glad to do that too. So I wanted there to be some sort of consequence for my son, just to pay it back, express gratitude and make things right. So he's gonna be working in the yard for a couple hours this week, and we've had at least one other conversation about it, but I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. Are there some alternative ways to handle the situation that might be better? better learning experience, better parenting style? Have you guys gone through something like that? Have your kids gotten into a car wreck? What was your experience like? I'd love to hear back from you. What lessons did you take away? And man, it freaks me out to think that sometimes car accidents are on the road at 60 miles an hour. I don't know if I'm ready to deal with that. So it kind of made me think through like, okay, how do I want to prepare myself for future instances? And it really makes me go back to like, I want to train my kids well to minimize that as much as possible. So spending the time teaching my kids how to drive safely, how to mitigate risk, navigate accidents, all that stuff. Anyway, just sharing from the heart today. Maybe this will stir some thoughts for you if you haven't been through a situation like that. And if you have, give me some feedback and some insight, some wisdom. Give me some of that wisdom that you've gained through your experience. And I love to put that to use, put it into practice. May God bless you in all your fathering efforts. Hey, let's raise our kids not by accident, but with intent. Catch you on the next episode.